Hello guys and welcome back to a new video, and today I'm going to be showing you how to script in Roblox Studio. So this whole series is about scripting, alright? So if you don't know how to use Roblox Studio, there's a plethora of other videos that you can watch on the matter. So um, it doesn't matter if you're just a beginner or you're already experienced, you could still watch this series. It's going to go from not knowing absolutely nothing at all to being able to hopefully make your own game. Um, so it's going to be a long ride, not gonna lie. Well, before we start, I have to go over some things first. First of all, just watching these videos won't automatically make you a scripting god. Like, you have to put the time and effort into it yourself. So you could, for example, open up this video and then open up a new place, and while you're watching the video, you could follow along and like mess around with what you've just learned, or like pause and experiment. Do whatever, honestly. You could watch the video and then do that, but it's even by like binge watching the whole series, you won't learn like that. You have to actually experiment yourself and mess around. And it also takes time. It takes a lot of time. Uh, it doesn't take days. It takes weeks and months. Actually, it takes months to actually become a good scripter and actually know what to actually do and make your own game and possibly make money. But that's all I had to say. So let's actually get into the tutorial. That's what you're here for, not a rant. So we're going to start off by inserting a part, right? We're going to insert object, insert script. So this is where the magic happens. All the games you've ever played in your life, they run on code. It might not look like this, right? Different engines. This is Roblox Studio. This is their own engine. So this uses Roblox Lua, which is a programming language. So let's remove this first line. Don't worry about that yet. That's just a filler line. Um, so scripting, right? How does it work? Well, there's a lot of things that go into it. But first, we have to go over probably the most fundamental part of scripting. And before we do that, I'm gonna use an analogy, right? So it's easier to understand, hopefully. So whenever imagine this, whenever someone asks your name, right? They're asking you, "Oh, what's your name?" When you hear your name, you think, "Oh, that's my name is Anthony," right? You think of your name instantly when you hear those two phrases together. You immediately think, "Oh, my name equals to Anthony." So this same idea of like memory could be used on scripts, right? Those are called variables. Whenever you hear a specific um, like wording, it equals to something else. But like variables, so what can we use them for? Well, a variable equals something. In this case, it equals a name. But in the gaming world, you can't just make it equal a name. That's not a thing you can make it equal to. There's actual specific things like something can equal. And let's go over those things that things can equal. For example, in this, properties. If you don't know what a property is, hopefully you should. A part has properties, right? The transparency, the brick color, the name, those are all properties. You can change them, click on them, you can change the brick color, right? You can change the name, change the transparency, right? You can do all of that simple. But when you click on a game, right? The creator of the game isn't going to be clicking on properties to change them every time you play, right? No, it does that automatically through scripts. So how would you change properties through scripts? Well, before we do that, let's go over a thing called value types. So a value type is like this transparency, you see this? It can only equal numbers. 0 0.5, 0 0.0001. That's a number. But it can't equal letters. Like, I'm trying to type letters right now, but it can't equal that because this is a specific value type. The transparency property only takes a specific value type, and in this case, it's a number. So let's look over the name, right? The name, you can write literally anything. You could write uh, characters, numbers, dots. You can use anything, honestly. That's a name. So in the name, it takes anything, and that's called a string. I'll go over that in a bit, but and in this case, the behaviors, right? Anchored, can't collide. You can't see what it actually does until we go in game. But those are click yes or no, true or false, right? Right. When it's checked or not, it has two different states. Like this doesn't have two different states. It has an infinite amount of states, but it has to be a number. So those are called value types, and each property has a specific value type. Like in this case, it's a color. In this case, it's x, y, z coordinates for orientation, position, etc. So how would you change that through a script? Well, it's actually quite easy. But first, let's go back to what we were talking about first of all, and it's variables. So a variable, what I like to think of it is, it's basically like a local property. Like if the script had a new property, it would basically equal variables, but only the script itself can see these variables. But any property that any object has, any script can see it. Everyone can see them. So those are called global properties. These are, you could consider these global variables, and what you write inside of here are local variables. So let's say I wanted to, I don't know, make a new quote unquote property. It's not a property, it's a variable, but I'm using it as a example so you could see that they're very, very, very similar. So let's make up a name, right? Any property could use a name. This is not a property, it's a variable. Alright? You just have to clear that up. So you could call it anything. Let's go back to the original example I used. My name, right? I could call it anything. I could use lowercase, uppercase, my name 1, my name is. Like you could, it can be named anything. So let's go back to my name equals, right? You have to specify that it equals something. So my name equals what? So we have to use the correct value type. So in this case, name, right? You can write anything. So writing this is just gonna show red, right? That's an error. You can't just do that. So we have to use a specific value type. And in this case, this is called a string. A string is, you can write anything inside of it. So right here I use two quotation marks to let the script itself know while it's running that this is a script, and anything that's inside of here will belong to the string itself. So I could write my name, like Anthony. I could write numbers. I could write that, whatever that is. See how it's not marking it as an error because the script knows what you are telling it. You are making my name equal to anything you write inside of here. So in this case, I wrote Anthony. It doesn't just have to be named my name, it could be named anything. It's still going to be a variable. But to make it like the script readable to you, try to name your variables something that you know what they will equal to, and it's not hard to read. So that's the one value type, strings. Strings are the name of the parts. There's other properties that use strings, but in this case, only the name shows up for the part. But let's use the second value type, which are numbers. Everyone knows numbers, right? So let's call this random number, right? It could be named anything. And for numbers, you don't use quotation marks. That's to let the script while it's running know that it's a number and not a string. So like here, we could write 3. Like this is different than this. This is a number value type, but this is a string value type. So you have to let the script know the difference, because humans, like, we're perfect. We're pretty good. If we saw a 3, we would be like, oh, that's a 3. I'm gonna count it as a number. But a computer, if it doesn't see those quotation marks, it's not going to assume you made a mistake. It's going to assume that everything you give it is correct. But you know, that's not always the case, sadly. So numbers here, you could write in decimals, you could write whole numbers, you could write negative numbers, you can write any kind of number. But there's also another thing. You could use operators. So for example, 1 plus 1, right? That's 2. 1 minus 1, 1 times 1, 1 divided by 1, 1 to the power, oh that's the wrong thing, 1 to the power of 1. 1 minus parentheses 5 plus 5. It runs using PEMDAS, right? Order of operations. You hopefully should know that. Um, so yeah, that's numbers and strings. We went over numbers and strings, but there's another one, another value type, and you see these, right? The checkboxes. True or false? True, false, yes, no. Two different states. So how would you write that inside of a script? Well, it's easy. False with true. So false, sorry, I just had a major brain freeze. True equals yes, false equals no. Notice how they don't have a quotation mark? The quotations I make? That's to specify to let the script know that it's not a string, but a boolean. These are called booleans. False or true, it's two different states. These are very useful for like yes or no questions. They will come useful later on, but right now you could just keep them in the back of your mind. So let's go back to numbers, because numbers are very important to let you understand more how variables actually work. So let's write a little example. So number 1 equals 5, right? Number 2 equals 4 plus 5. Number 3 equals number 2 plus times number 1. So what would the script do if we were to run it? Well, let's go step by step. The script, whenever you click run, whenever the script is available to run, it's going to run from line to line, left to right, just like reading. So it will be number 1 equals 5. So let's imagine we were running, like we were the script itself processing the information that we just gave it to. So number 1 equals 5. Number 2 equals 4 plus 5. When the script sees operations like this, it's not going to just leave it equal to 4 plus 5. It's going to actually solve this. So it would make this equal to 9. But we don't see this happening. This all happens in an instant. It happens in milliseconds. We can't even see it happen, right? The script does it all internally. We still see it as 4 plus 5 until we actually click run. But even like that, we won't see it. It's all internal. So this would equal 9. So number 1 equals 5, number 2 equals 9. Number 3 equals number 2 times number 1. Notice how these aren't numbers? We're actually using variables. So like I said, it solves it all first. It doesn't just keep it as this. For us it does, but internally it doesn't. So it would replace number 2. And number 2 was set equal to 9. So it would replace this by this. So 9 times 5 is 45. So now number 3 equals 45, number 2 equals 9, and number 1 equals 5. Of course, this all happens in an instant. I've already said that before, but I have to make that clear to you, because a lot of people forget that. So let's go back to the original. We could all see it backtracking, and there we go. That's what we started with, and that's what we see. So variables, you see, are used. You can use variables. You could set a variable equal to other variables. Like you can make variables change each other. You could change a variable itself. So like I could do number 1 equals 5. Number 2 equals number 2 plus 10. Like I said, this would make number 2 equals number 2 plus 10. Let me just change that real quick. That's wrong. My bad. So it would set number 2 equal to 5, and it would be, okay, number 2 equals to number 2 plus 5, which is 5 plus 10, which in the end is 15. So hopefully you understand how that works, how the script goes. Goes from line by line until the script ends. So that's numbers, that's variables. But how about properties? We just kind of ignore these, right? So how would someone change a property through a script? Well, first I have to go. I like how I say well first a lot. My bad, but still. Let's make a new variable called part. Because we've talked about numbers, strings, and booleans, but there's another value type that's also very, very important, and those are called instances. So what's an instance? Well, this part is an instance, this script is an instance, this base plate is an instance. I like to call them objects instead of instances because it's a lot easier to understand, so I'm just going to refer them as objects from now on. So this workspace is an object. Everything here, everything you see in the Explorer tab is an object. Even these are top level objects. These are called services. Because they're top level, right? They're the thing at the very top. So objects here, you see how this workspace, when we click this little arrow, it shows these: camera, terrain, base plate, and the part. So these are called the children. Now, think of this as a family tree, as a hierarchy. So this workspace, the hierarchy of the workspace is the camera, terrain, base plate, and part. This workspace has 4 children, and these are the full children. Now these 4 children all have a parent. See the parent property? This parent property is an object. So I could move that. I don't know what I even moved. Oh, I moved the camera to server storage. See how the parent is a property? So every single object has a parent property. Even these services, they have the property is place 1, which is the game, the name of the game. So that's the top, that's actually the highest it can go. But let's look at this, the part, the script. The script is the children, this is the child of this part. And the part has a child called script, and the parent of the script is the part. We can see it because of the arrow again. So hierarchies, these are called hierarchies. Going from object to object, going up and down through children, through parents, to select the specific part you want. So, like, you see how whenever we want to edit an object, we have to click on the object first, and then we change the property that we want to change. Well, it works almost the same on a script. We have to select the object that we want to edit first, and then we change it. So we could do that easily. So in this case, part equals. So we want to select this part. And through that, we have to use the hierarchies I just talked about. So to start a hierarchy, you have to start a hierarchy somewhere. And Roblox comes in handy here because Roblox has some already set variables. These are called preset variables. They have other names, but I like to call them that. A preset variable is, for example, this script. This is already set, which is why it's not showing an error. If we didn't have to set script ourselves, we didn't have to do script equals. It's already set to something. And in this case, script equals to the script that we are currently writing this in. So script would automatically select this script. So if we would run this part equals script, it would set the variable called part equal to the script that it's running in. My bad. So part equals the script. Well, we have to select the part, right? Because that's the variable. That's what it's called. So script dot, and we have to go to the parent. So we see the parent of the script is the part that we want to select. So we would do script dot parent. The dot here is representing that there's a change in the hierarchy. So we're going either up or down, and in this case we're going up because we're selecting the parent of the script, which is the part. So part equals script dot parent. We've already got that variable, so let's actually change it, right? So we would start off a new hierarchy. So part dot dot. So for selecting children, what it first does is it goes like if we did a part dot script. Well, that would of course select the child called script. If we had another child here and here, like let's say for example we inserted a folder, we would do part.folder to select the folder. But of course we're not doing anything, we're just writing that. But let's say we did part.fire. Well, there's no child called fired, so what would it do? Well, it would then look into the object itself and it would see if there's a property called fire. And in this case there isn't, so it would then proceed to error. So it selecting children is also the same as selecting properties, but it of course prioritizes children. So in this case we want to get the parts transparency. Let's say we want to change the parts transparency, so we would do part.transparency. As in here you can already see it's filling it out for me already, because it knows that I'm selecting the part. So part.transparency equals to, we have to use the correct value type. And like I said, it's a number, so we can use a number value type. And those are pretty easy, so we could do 0.25. So if we were to run this, you can see it change to 0.25. And really that's how you change properties, but it goes a lot deeper. I have to go over some more things. So part.transparency equals to 0.25. Let's say we wanted to change the name. Part.name equals to let's say we use strings, right? You have to use the correct value type. So let's call it to lol. And now part.anchored equals to false or true. It would of course be true. No quotations, right? You have to let the script know it's a boolean value type. So if we were to run, it would change all of those properties. So now it's called lol, and now it's anchored. Those are the 3 different value types. Now we could go even deeper, right? Make a new variable called trans equals 0.25. Set that equal to trans. Make a new variable called name. Name equals to lol. Set that equal to the variable name. Make a new variable called bool equals true. Set that equal to bool. So of course if the script will, when it runs, it would go line by line, it would set these equal to, and then it would be like, okay, trans, what does trans equal to? Okay, trans equals to 0.25, name equals to lol, and bool equals to true. So if we were to run, the same thing would happen. So I have one more example to go over. First of all, let's change how part is selected. There's another way you can start hierarchy, and that's game. So if we were to do game.part, so it would go game, which is the top level. You can't see it. Oh my bad, that's wrong. Game.workspace. There we go. Game.workspace. And then from workspace we want to go to the part. So we would write game.workspace.part. So game.workspace.part. Let's say we wanted to select this camera from this script. We would go camera equals to script.parent. Script.parent .parent. We want to go up again to workspace, and then we want to go back down again to camera. .camera. And that's how you select objects. It all takes, like, you have to know your hierarchies, and you have to like visualize it yourself. But let's go back to what we were doing. So we have our new part selected. It's the same part, but just selected a different way. We could even make this even easier to read. Make a new variable called work, which is set to game.workspace. And now that we did that, we can just replace this to work. So work.part. And now I'm going to test you. This is going to be the last thing we go over today. This is going to be like a mini test. Hopefully you don't mess up, or else, I'll be pretty sad. So, alright, I'm going to quietly type, and I'll tell you when I'm done. So what would this do? If we were to run the script, what would this do? What would the output, or the result be? Well, if you said that the parts transparency changes by 0.25, then you're wrong, because it doesn't do that. In fact, it does nothing. The script just runs, and it does nothing. But why is that, right? You might be thinking, oh, but didn't you say trans, like any instance of this gets replaced? Well, that's true. It does, right? So if we were to run line by line, this would be, oh, trans, it would be work equals game.workspace, and then part equals work.part, right? You just sets those, and then trans equals to part.transparency. This is the part you have to remember. Like I said, it doesn't just keep it equal to part.transparency, because part.transparency, the value type of part.transparency is a number, right? There's no property value type. There's only what the value type, the property equals, my bad. So in this case, game.workspace, that's an object value type, but this is a number value type, so it would be set to 0. So trans equals to 0 plus 0.25. So the only thing the script would do is set the trans variable. It would just increase it by 0.25. Now if we wanted to actually do what I said it's not supposed to do, then we would instead remove this variable and instead do part.transparency equals part.transparency plus 0.25. And now you would see that it changes by 0.25. So we could copy this a few more times, and it would hopefully be set to 0.75, and it does. So that's it. That's it for today. To recap, hopefully you learned about variables, properties, value types, and how to edit these, how to save them in variables, and hopefully just how they work in general. Um, I feel like this is a good foundation for where people should start, because variables are very important. Like every language uses them. That's how important they are. They don't change as much through the languages, I mean. So you have to know this if you actually want to get into programming in the future. So that's it. That's all I had to say for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for episode 2, and see ya.